Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Martin. I'm executive in residence with the College of Charleston. I've been here for about 13 years. And today we're privileged to have two of our council members, Aaron Height, who's Vice President Client Partner at Merkle, DWA, and Keith Lindenberg, who is partner at Broder Partners. Keith's a former chair of our council. Aaron and Keith are both longtime members of our advisory council. We appreciate all that you've done. And today we're going to be talking for the next 25 minutes or so about networking from home, how you can do it well, how you can cope in the current environment we're in, how you can keep your name out there, introduce yourself to people, get engaged with potential employers or colleagues or others. So I'm going to do not much of the talking today. These folks can see me anytime, but I'm going to let Aaron, you and Keith take the lead on this. And maybe just as a way to start, you could talk about how you've adapted yourselves in this current environment and how you would recommend to these students ways they can keep their names out there, meet people, connect with people, and just continue to network, even though we're in a non-face-to-face environment at this point. So, Aaron, you want to start?
Yeah, for sure. Hey, everyone. Good to be here. As Tom mentioned, I'm part of the advisory council. I'm also a 2001 CofC Comm grad, so happy to be here with all of you. And my background, just by way of information, is primarily in digital marketing. So essentially kind of starting as a digital media buyer and progressively kind of working my way into more leadership roles. Over the past 10 or 15 years, worked in quite a few digital marketing agencies. I've worked at Google for about 5 years, working with some of their largest B2B technology advertisers, like Zoom, actually, and have recently come back to agency land. And it's been really interesting, for the past, 6 or 7 months, getting comfortable with networking and kind of realizing that now is actually the best time to network in a weird way. So kind of, using myself as an example, I just have more flexibility with my time. I don't have a commute. I don't have after work commitments. It's just, honestly easier to connect with someone briefly via phone or video than it is to kind of go through the process of setting up lunch or coffee or dinner, whatever that might be. And the other thing that I think really stands out for me right now is you kind of have the easiest conversation starter ever. How are you and how is your business or marketing or communications or whatever changing during COVID? And literally everyone has a story to tell. And, folks like Keith and I are always eager to talk about ourselves. So you start with a question like that and we can go on forever. But I'll stop there and let Keith introduce himself too.
Sure thing. Thanks, Aaron. Again, by way of background, I started out as a journalist. I went to a relatively small liberal arts college in Connecticut called Fairfield University. I was an English major. I had a concentration in writing. Always knew that I wanted to do communications and hopefully be able to write as part of that job. So started out as a journalist and did that for a couple of years. And then over the course of my career, which is, 25 plus years, I've been both on the agency side and the corporate side. So on the corporate side, I was part of the IBM corporate communications team. And then also at Deloitte, I ran all of US communications while I was there. And then as Tom mentioned, I'm at Broder Partners right now. I've worked at a couple other large agencies, PR agencies, Fleshman Hillard, Weber Shandwick, Edelman, Wagner Edstrom. So I've done both the corporate and the agency side. And like Aaron, I'm back on the agency side and really enjoying it. I think one of the points that Aaron mentioned was one that I was going to mention too, which I think is very spot on, and that is more flexibility. He mentioned, now's the time because he has, and most of us have more flexibility, and that's absolutely 100% true. And I found that the accessibility is there where it may not have been there before, right? Where people were not able to take a phone call or took a long time to respond to emails. they're more accessible these days because we're basically getting up and moving. Well, some, we found out earlier today, some don't leave their bedrooms, but most of us are moving out of their bedrooms into a kitchen or a home office or what have you, and starting work that way. So I just think Zoom has been amazing. I was not a big video conference person prior to the pandemic, but certainly have embraced it. And I do have people reach out to me all the time and just ask, do you have 30 minutes to do a quick little Zoom, whether it's informational, touch base. And I've been very willing to take those meetings. A lot of it has to do with, they're people that or you know through somebody else. And let's face it, we're all sitting, in one location. We're dealing with the same people over and over again. So it's nice to kind of connect with others, find out, geographically where they are, how they're doing, how their job is, how their search is going, how school is. So totally open to that. And I think Zoom and Microsoft Teams, just a great way to network remotely.
Just a observation I would make, having been on a million Zooms, it seems like since March, as I'm sure we all have. One of the things I would be very aware of as a student, especially, is just be aware of your background. And what I mean physically what's behind you in the picture. And notice that both Aaron and Keith, notice how the relative size of their body, their head and shoulders within the frame. They're not sitting way up close like that. Or they're not sitting way back there. So just kind of have yourself in a frame like this that sort of, just looks about like the ones do here. I've seen people who sit way too close to the screen and others who sit way too far back. And either way, it's just kind of off-putting. But try to be, don't have a fan spinning on top of your head, because that can be very annoying, or a light, right behind you, so you look like an angel. Things like that. Just be aware of how you're coming across, how you appear on the network. One of the questions we just got from Megan is, how do we not seem annoying while networking, especially virtually as college students? And this is something I hear all the time. Students are very reluctant to bug you guys. They know you're busy. So how would each of you suggest they navigate staying in your awareness, but not seeming to stalk you or bug you to death?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think, well, by virtue of being on this call, you have, a couple of fantastic networking groups already, right? One is the council that Tom mentioned, that Keith and I are on. And I know for a fact, all of us are open and available to conversations. But I'll say the other one is just the greater CofC, alumni organization, right? I get random cold outreach notifications on LinkedIn from fellow Cougars all the time, people I don't know who are reaching out. Sometimes it's to try to sell me something, which I don't always want to, but I always am open to connecting. But the broader point, I think, is in order to not be annoying, you need to kind of go in with a plan. A lot of times, I know I've heard Tom talk about this, bringing some sort of value to the table, for the person you're looking to network with. Another thing that I've seen work really well with some recent interactions with some other folks is, I have an idea I'd like to run past you. As a student, that could be something, a topic for an essay, or, something that you want to do on campus, and how could, Keith's skills or my skills, help build into that. So there's a couple of angles, kind of ways in, that you just want to use as a hook, so it's not, completely cold.
Yeah. I would say also, there's a fine line between, kind of harassing somebody and, being persistent, right? So it's just a lot of it, I think, you get through intuition. Yes, we're busy. Yes, we have a lot going on, but we are very, very willing to network and to work with students. We do it all the time. And I would just say, use your judgment when you reach out. Give that person ample time to respond, and that's not, it's a day or two. It's not 2 weeks, let's say, and it's also not 2 hours. And I think over time you kind of feel your way around, and you get to understand that. The other thing that I would say too is when you reach out and you could just say, can we get together for 15 minutes? Do you have 15 or 20 minutes? And of course, some we'll give you 30 minutes, but it's, you're being respectful of somebody's time. And then come, like Aaron said, with a plan, but come with an agenda, right? Just say, I would love to talk to you about, these two things. Do you have a couple of minutes? This way we can plan for it. We can be ready to have that discussion and be able to, contribute and add value. So those are just a couple of things that I would suggest. And, but at the end of the day, it's, don't feel intimidated. It's what we do. It's what we encourage. And in networking, I have found in my career, networking is one of the, if not the most important skills to have as a business professional.
Just the other thing I would just say, again, this is kind of tactical, but I'm noticing some of you have photographs as your sort of placeholders when you've muted your video. Be aware of those photographs. I mean, most of them look really very nice, you look very professional, but just think of that as the cover photo for your brand image. And so you want to make sure that conveys the professionalism and the kind of image that you want to project. It's fine to just have your name up there. I think actually having a photograph is not a bad idea. And you'll find yourself, especially in this Zoom world we're living in right now, that becomes more and more common as just something you're going to need. So just think about the fact that your image is out there being portrayed in whatever setting you're in, and Zoom is just one more way to do that. Some of the questions we're getting, which are related to that, how do you stand out when you're networking in a digital environment? And then what's the best way to reach out if you don't have an immediate connection to somebody? How do you encourage them to want to really respond to your message? How do you sort of stand out in a crowd? Any suggestions on that area?
I mean, I'll jump in really quick. I want to build on what you said, Tom, before. I think, if you're a communications major, you're a communications professional, for the most part, you're in the image business, right? You're either helping shape or protect, an image or a reputation. So I think the image that you project is very, very important. So your picture, your background, all that stuff, very, very important. We had a call the other day, and there was one of my colleagues, we had to have a conversation, was doing the call on his couch, not a problem, but was lying down and had the laptop, on his chest. So like you said, Tom, was way too close, and it just, it wasn't the right image. So how do you do it to stand out? You come prepared, right? You have a list of really good questions. You've done the research, whether it's on my organization or my clients that you want to ask me about, and you look professional. And nowadays you don't have to put a sport coat on or wear a dress or wear a suit, but you shouldn't be wearing, a t-shirt or sweats, or, you just dress up a little bit. It's a collared shirt versus a non-collared shirt, but it's the image you're projecting, and it's the preparedness, I think, when you come in to have that conversation. That's how you stand out, at least how folks stand out from my perspective.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would say that having a prepared list of questions. I mean, the way Keith and I prepare for meetings is literally write these sort of things out or type them up in a Word document and use them. The cool thing about all these video meetings is that you can have a cheat sheet on your screen while you're having this conversation. You don't have to memorize, a presentation, for example. I cheat like that all the time at this point, maybe too much. So, I mean, think about really not ever trying to wing it. Always prepare, always have, your purpose, what you want to get out of the conversation, and some questions. And then, Keith's point about how you present yourself is very important. And then the other big factor here is just follow up. A quick thank you note. I found, this particular part of the conversation is really interesting. You got me thinking about XYZ. And then don't be afraid to ask for, I know I saw this come up in the chat. Don't be afraid to ask for a connection to someone else. in our network. You know, I often get questions like, you know, who would you recommend talking to about X? And if you look at my LinkedIn, I have, I think, over 1,000 connections. I often can't think of someone off the top of my head, but if you've gone through my LinkedIn, my connections, and you see, like, I know people that work at Nike or Google or whatever organization you might be interested in talking to someone at, or a specific job title that you want to learn more about, you know, send me a note and say, hey, I saw this person. I'd love to chat with them. Could you connect me? Oftentimes, you know, by nature, not everyone on LinkedIn, I'm not perfect friends with everyone, right? So some people I may not feel perfectly comfortable connecting you with, and that's just kind of how LinkedIn is. If that's the case, I'll tell you, but also more than happy to connect to people that I know well.
And I see a question about informational interviews. One of the things that I've observed is that people sometimes sort of underestimate the importance of an informational interview. Even though you're not going there to specifically interview for a job, you're still on stage, if you will. And you need to think about the image you're projecting, even if it's an informational interview. And by that, I mean what you've already heard. Prepare for it, learn something about the company and the individual. Be prepared to ask really informed questions that show you've done your homework, because you're making an impression. And what happens in the informational interview could lead to the person saying, you know what, I don't have anything right now at my firm. However, I know so-and-so at another firm who I think is looking. I'd be happy to refer you on to that person. They'll only do that if they've gotten a positive impression from you when you've met with them. So just treat every one of those things as though it's, you know, extremely important. Keith, the question that came in for you about is there any difference in how you network in the corporate side with the agency side? Is there any difference there?
I don't think there's any real kind of stark difference between the two organizations. I think, at least, you know, kind of in my experience, the corporate communications teams that I was part of, we tended to have people that had more professional experience. So you were dealing with people that, you know, we would hire that had like 10 plus years experience in communications, where on the agency side, you can come in right out of school, you can come in as an intern. So I think just the responsibility and the experience level is different, but for the most part, it's the same skill set, right? You have to be a really great communicator. You've got to be a team player. You've got to be highly organized. If you're a writer, a good writer, boy, you really stand out. Those things, you know, those skill sets work on both sides, corporate communications and agency life.
Yeah, and that's been my impression too. Just I've worked a little bit in both areas. Aaron, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, you know, I think one of the things that I've found, I'll compare Google to my current agency. So at Google, and this kind of goes back to something Tom was mentioning earlier, everyone is completely comfortable with video conversations. Part of that is because you're working with a global organization. You're talking to people, you know, not only across the United States, but also in other countries. But I find that the people are much less likely to get on video in my current agency. And I think I've witnessed that it's often younger people who maybe have a shared roommate situation, or they don't want to show their background, to Tom's point. And so I do think there are some things to think about. You know, if you are asking for a video call, like, to make sure that you are prepared to do video. If you don't want to do video, that's also totally fine. Just ask for a phone call instead. So I think there's a lot of flexibility within that, but you'll need to kind of be upfront about how you want to handle those situations.
You know, but I think ideally, if you can do video, especially if you're just meeting somebody for the first time, in this current environment, I think it just gives you more opportunity to present yourself in a positive light than just being another kind of, you know, faceless phone call. And I mean, Aaron's right. There may be times that doesn't work, but I'd say if you can, try to do a video call, because then they get to see you, they get to get a sense of your personality, and all of that is, you know, gives you an opportunity. Aaron, a question that came in for you, and we're almost out of time, but we got time for this one, I'm sure. Are there any evergreen, this comes in from my colleague, Vince Benany, any evergreen skills in communication that you think are still hold true that were emphasized while you were a student? I know that's a long time ago, but what do you think has been the persistent things that still are true today?
Yeah, I mean, at the overarching level, it's about presenting an idea in a way that people understand it. Simple, to the point, some structure around it. And that can come through writing, it can come through public speaking, a few other ways, I'm sure. But the focus of understanding what you're trying to get across and how you get that across in the most understandable way is really something that, you know, has propelled me throughout my career and really starts to set you apart professionally. As you get further along in your career, communication skills become the most important part of your professional persona in a lot of ways, right? Anyone can be a subject matter expert at specific things, but as you become a leader and as you grow in an organization, those sort of communication skills that you'll be learning at the College of Charleston are the ones that will propel you in those situations, kind of set you apart from others in the same field.
Keith, anything you'd like to add to that?
No, spot on. As always, Aaron. Stated.
Well, I guess the one thing I would just say, kind of as a concluding comment, then I'll give each of you a chance to wrap up too. When I talked to a lot of employers, I talked to a lot of council members, I talked to a lot of people that are making hiring decisions. The thing I would just say to all the students is what you learn in the classroom is certainly important, but equally important is how well you network. We don't have a class in the department called Networking 101. What you're doing right now today, and have you been doing all day, is networking. And I commend all of you that have been on a lot of these Zoom calls. You're getting exposed to a huge amount of networking advice, which is great. But your ability to network, not just right now, but throughout your career, is a huge part of whether you succeed or fail. And I hear that over and over and over. So keep working on it, keep focusing on it, and I think it'll serve you well. Aaron, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, in preparing for this, I wanted to bring some sort of stat into it because I'm obsessed with using numbers to tell stories. And I found one from Harvard Business Review that says 65% to 85% of jobs are found through networking. So I'll just leave it at that. It's important, it's critical. You'll get more comfortable with it as you build the muscle.
Perfect. Thank you. Keith?
I'll just reinforce what I said before. I think it is one of the most critical skills that you have as a business professional, networking. And if I look back on the jobs that I had, sure, we use recruiters, we use headhunters, but it's all about the networking. It's being connected, it's continuing conversation, and it's just a great skill set to have to use your communication skills that way.
So keep doing it. Keep reaching out to all of us on the advisory council. Thank all of you for being here. Aaron, Keith, thank you both for some great advice. And I think there's another session starting about 3:30. So take a look at the schedule. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye. Take care, everyone.